welcome back to the program. Gentlemen, we get a lot of different questions. Sometimes they're intellectual, sometimes they're very spiritual. This one is a very interesting one. It's an audio one. Let's hear it.
If Jesus took everything away from you, would you still be faithful to him?
Wow. If Jesus took everything away from you, would you still be faithful to him? Pastor Ray.
Well, I want to look at the question from a different perspective and in the understanding of grace and my own ability. And I'll say this to the camera. If Jesus gave me everything in and of myself, I would not be faithful to him, because my faith is given to me from Christ and it's sustained by the grace of God. And if it were not for the grace of God, I would run back to my sins and I would leave Christ in a moment. And I would give you Luke 22, 31 and 32, where Peter just got done saying, "I'll die with you, Lord." And Jesus says to Peter, "Simon, Simon, Satan asked for you that he could sift you like wheat." But then he says this, "But I have prayed for you that your faith may not fail." If it wasn't for the prayers of Jesus, Peter's faith would have failed like that, no matter what God gave or took away from him. And that's what my faith depends upon, the grace of God, not my ability. And whether I have stuff or don't have stuff, God's grace can keep me believing. And I believe that's the only reason I do keep believing.
Wow, that's good. Pastor Mark.
My life message is teaching believers to finish strong. And I've made the decision I'm going to serve Jesus all of my days. And I've done that for 40 years. I'll continue that. But I do say this. I have a revelation that my Father is a good God. He's a God of grace. He's not a takeaway God. He's an adding to God. So to me, I see him maybe different than the question. It's the enemy that wants to take. It's God that gives his goodness. So I trust I will serve him all of my days because I've tasted of him and I've seen that he is good.
Well, I like that viewpoint. However, there are people that have lost everything. People have lost their families, they've lost their businesses, they've lost things.
Persecution and
through persecution or through circumstances. Yeah. And I think that's where we're getting at. Pastor Glaze, what's your comment on this?
Well, I would like to think that, and like Ray said, it's not dependent on my strength or my energy, but what God has put in me. So I would like to think that I would still be faithful. But I would have to say that, there probably would come a doubt in my mind. I probably would say, man, is this worth it? Honestly. But then, you ever watch those Looney Tune cartoons where they kind of slap the guy like that, and they kind of slap him back to good sense? I think that the Lord would give me a Looney Tune slap, man, and I say, okay, I'm all right now. But how I think of Horatio Spafford, who lost his business in the Chicago fire. He lost 4 daughters, right? And then he was able to say, it is well with my soul.
That's good. Yeah. Pastor Jay.
I would answer the question and say, no, I wouldn't be, to your point. Because if he took everything away, then I would have nothing. And that means including himself. And even David said, take not your Holy Spirit from me. Because, God, we underestimate the grace of God. And I think about Jude 1:24 says, now to him who is able to keep you from falling. I believe we can lose everything. And as long as you have Jesus, I know it's cliche, and I hope I never have to answer that question in the flesh, but there's a level of glory that can come on your life that you can write a song and say, it is well with my soul, or whatever it is that God gives you. He has an ability. Think about Jesus and all that he endured on the cross. He shouldn't even have been standing. He shouldn't be able to breathe. He lost so much blood. How in the world is he carrying a cross? But that glory was on him. And when that glory comes on you, it's amazing what you can go without, and how people say, how did you lose everything and still have a praise? How can you lose everything and still have joy? Because God, the more that you lose of this world, the more of him you inherit. So as long as he doesn't take himself away, I can make it. But if I don't have that, I'm done. I can lose his seat and have to give up my salvation without him keeping me.
That's absolutely right. He does keep us. As I thought of it, if I could answer this for myself, I said, I don't know. I hope so. I don't know. I haven't been in that situation. But here's what I feel, that I will receive the strength to stand from his hand in that situation. Now, listen, Demas, having loved this present world, has left me. Okay, so there are Christians that have left. What do we do with that? What do we do with that, Ray, when there's Christians that do turn their back.
I mean, I would go to 1 John 2 and say they went out from us because they were not really of us. I think anyone that really falls away in that sense was either never converted or they're backsliding, and they will come back, because I don't think Jesus can lose one of them.
Okay. Pastor Glaze, any final thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would definitely say that, you agree with what Ray said, that, if you can slip away, then were you ever there from the beginning?
Yeah.
And maybe you just need a Looney Tune slap.
We all need someone to slap us back and forth and say, come on, serve Jesus. Serve Jesus. Any final thoughts?
Hold on to God's unchanging hand, no matter, think about it. If we lost small things and God kept us and restored our faith, if we lose bigger, he'll still keep us too. So it's not about how much we lose, it's what we gain because we're with him.
I remember hearing of a woman that in the Johnstown flood lost all 6 of her children. And she said, Lord, couldn't you have left me one? But she was still talking to God. She was still seeking after God, right? And that's a situation.